Hello and welcome back, it's Shrike here with another D&D video, and today I'm going to be teaching you how to use Inkarnate's new battle map creator. Inkarnate has been a tool in the Dungeons & Dragons world for quite a while now with their regional and their world maps, but now they are moving into the world of battle maps, so let me show you how that works. But before we get onto that, I just want to let you know that I upload D&D videos here on YouTube every Monday and Thursday, so make sure to subscribe if you want to improve your game and take part in D&D discussions. So to show you Inkarnate's battle map creator, I'm going to jump into the computer. So once you have logged into Inkarnate, you will have to click to create a new map, and this is the first thing that you're going to see. Before we get on, I'm just going to also say that the version I'm using here is the paid version. So the free version I think has a lot less assets and stuff like that, but I don't even think the paid version is that much. I can't remember exactly how much, but I don't think it's that much, and you get a lot more assets and stuff like that. So have a look at both to decide which way you want to use it, but this is the paid one that I'm going to be showing you here. So on the left you'll see all the different types of maps that you can make. So there's regional world, parchment world, and fantasy regional world, or classic, sorry. But the one that we want for this is the fantasy battle map. And if you flick through here, you can see some of the examples that you can make. This one's pretty cool. But yeah, some of the examples that you can make using this tool. Once you've got that selected, just go ahead and click choose style. It will then ask you what size you want the document to be. I'm just going to stick with digital landscape for this, but you can make it all different sizes, and there's a custom one there to make it whichever size you want it to be. And then this is what you will see. If you've used Inkarnate in the past, it's going to look very familiar, but I'm going to be making this video as if you've never seen it before, and I'm going to go through absolutely everything. So don't worry if you haven't seen Inkarnate before. But something I want to mention first is that they've left quite a few tools in here from their world builder that you would never actually really use to make a battle map. And the first one is the one that you actually load into, and that's this sort of cutting tool, or the dig tool, I like to call it. Oh, it's called the mask tool. So this is where you would put your land masses if you were doing a large world, but you're not really going to be putting down land masses because it's all one land mass usually for a battle map. But if you wanted to, you could just fill it all out just like that so that it is all one landmass. But if you didn't do that, it doesn't matter either. The rest of it will still work just fine. So let's just quickly go around the screen and explain what everything is. So this first one here is the select tool, like most tools have, and up here you can select what you want it to select. So for example, if I only wanted to select the text, but the text is overlaying something else, I could click text, and then it will make sure that when I click and drag, or when I just click it, it will only highlight and select the text. It's always handy to mention as well that there's an undo button just here, in case you do make a mistake. This one here is the mask tool that you're not really going to use while you're making battle maps, so don't worry too much about that one. And then as we go down again, this is the brush tool. So this one's a bit more important. This is where you put down your land. So on the right here, you can see what you've selected, and then you can just draw it. As simple as that. We're going to come back to this one a little bit later. I'm just going to quickly go through what they all are, and then we'll go into them all a bit more in depth. So this stamp tool here is where you would select your assets, and then you can place them down. And there's some cool things about this which are a bit different to other tools that we'll go through as well. This is your text tool, so you can put text down and you can change it and stuff. We'll also go through that a bit later. And then this one here is called the path tool, and really you wouldn't use this in a battle map. There might be some applications I haven't thought of, but basically you can draw where the paths are, and you can do different types of lines and stuff. So I'm not really going to go through this tool. If there are any cool uses of this that you can think of in your battle maps, then do let me know in the comments. And then the next one is the note tool. So you can put down points on your map and then write notes on the right here. I'm not going to go too much into this one either, because we're just going to be talking about how to actually make a map in the tool, but just know that you can put notes on your map as well if you want to. And then the next one down is the grid tool, which is pretty important for making your battle maps if you use a grid. So we'll go through that as well. And then this last one here is the pan and zoom, but while you're on any of these, you can use the scroll wheel to go in and out. So you probably won't need to go here too much unless you need to move the map around like so. And then right down in the bottom left here is where you'll save it. It does not auto save, so make sure to save regularly so you don't lose any changes that you've made. And if you hover over it, it does tell you how many changes since the last save as well. And then along the bottom here, there's the export button, so that will export it as a PNG once you're done with the map. The shortcuts, which I would definitely suggest clicking on and just learning some of these. I think using shortcuts in tools like these makes it much more smooth and much more easy to do. So learn how to go between the different tools with the buttons here and do the add and subtract of mask tool and stuff like that. Will just make it a lot easier for you to make your maps. And in here they've got the zoom, and you can just click fit to screen. If you have somehow ended up off here or something, you can click fit to screen and then it will move it back like so. And then on the right, this panel will change depending on what tool you have selected. So we're going to go through all of them now. So we are going to start with the brush tool because that makes the most sense when you're making a map to actually put the terrain down. So the first thing to bring to your attention is that there is a foreground layer and a background layer here. If you have used the mask tool to put a mask over the top, then you'll want to use foreground and then you can draw on the foreground. But if I go to background, you'll see that I cannot draw on the background. But if I did not use the mask tool to put the terrain down in the first place, then when you come to the brush tool, you want to use the background layer and then you can draw on that. But once again, you cannot draw on the foreground if you do that. So we're just going to stick what we started with and we're going to draw on the foreground. So the next thing that you'll need to know are these different shapes. I'm just going to draw a little squiggly line for each of them. So that's your circle, which is your normal tool, I guess you would say. And then this shape here, if I draw it for you, it'll make more sense what it is. So it adds a bit of roughness to the outside. And then this here will draw like a square, like a grid. So if we start going through the circular brush, you can see you can change the size here, and there are the shortcuts, and then the opacity here, and there are the shortcuts, and then the softness here. So the softness, if you see here, if I scroll in, it might help actually, you can see that the edges just around here blend in to the grassy bit around the edge. But if I took the softness all the way down to 0 and drew, you'll see that that isn't the case. So hopefully seeing them side by side makes sense what the softness is. So you can set your softness between 0 and 1 to whatever you like. And then the opacity is exactly what you think it is. It's how see-through it is. So you can see that that is barely showing over the top of this. And that, I'm going to show you how to use that a bit later to give the textures a bit more realism to them. And then the size is exactly what it says. So you can make it really big like this and go over everything. So if we go to the edge brush now, you'll see the exact same size and opacity, but there's something a bit different here, and that's the feature size. And if I just scroll this up for you, you'll see that it changes the look of your brush. So the lower it is, the more circular it is, and then as you get higher, it makes it a bit more jagged. So let me put them onto the map so you can see the difference. So this is the more circular one. And then if I go up here and I put it right to the top, this is the more jagged one. So you can see the difference, and hopefully you can work out why you might want to use this one over this one. And then if you're using the square tool, it just has a size and opacity, which do the exact same as you would expect them to do. Now, something you may have noticed that I haven't gone through are these three here, which are on all three of the brushes. And so they are shapes that you can put onto the map, and then you can fill in with whatever texture you like. So if, for example, I choose this one, I could drag an area here on my map, and then you can press apply, and it will apply whatever you have selected with the opacity and stuff up here. So if I put that to full and press apply again, it makes a little circle there of the ground. So that's really good if you wanted a perfect circle or a perfect square or something like that. And there's a polygon one here as well. So if you wanted something perfect that you wanted to apply a different texture to, you can do that way. And you can also click here to change it to just fill the outline. So if I apply there, it does it like that. But then if I do the interior, it will do the interior as well. So while you're on the brush tool, you'll see on the right here that there is this button here that will take you to the catalog, which will show you all of the different textures that you have access to. And on the left here, you can tick to actually get access to all of the textures for the other types of maps as well. So there's actually, all in all, quite a lot of textures that you can have. But these first ones are the ones which are for the battle map mainly. So to show you how it works, I'm going to select this water one here, make my size really big, make sure I'm on the foreground, and then I'm going to fill all of this in with water. Because I've got the softness up, you could see that the edges there weren't very hard and sharp. So now it's here, I might have decided that actually this is a bit too blue, a bit too vibrant, so I could go to the catalogue and I could choose another texture. So let's say this dirt texture here, and I could put the opacity down. So let's put it down to about 40. And then I could go over the top of it, and hopefully you can see that it's making it a little bit more dirty looking. So I wanted to show you that although you have all of the textures here in the catalogue, you can actually put layers on top of each other to make sort of new, different textures of your own. So that is pretty much everything that I need to show you on the brush tool. So let's go on to the stamp tool, as it's called. I always call this the asset tool though. Right, so now we are on the stamp tool. Let's go through all of the bits around the edge. So this here is the size like normal, so you can make the asset bigger and smaller. Here you've got the opacity, which we've already gone through what that is. Here is the angle rotation, so it doesn't really work with a tree, but if you wanted to rotate something, you can do so here. Here are the layers, so you can have different layers of objects. If you wanted to have the floor on the bottom layer, for example, and then you wanted a table, and then you wanted something on the table, you could use different layers for that. This is the radius, which we'll go through in a second, and density that we'll go through in a second. But on the right here, you've got a catalogue again. So if I click into the catalogue, you will see all of these assets. And once again, like when we were looking at the brush tool, on the left here, you could click down here to add the regional and world map assets to this list as well. And also on the left, you'll see that these are all organized. So if you wanted just the forest assets, you could click forest there, and it would just show you anything that is a forest asset. Something I really like about this tool is that it groups types of the same asset. So you'll see that it says here 6, and if I press show, it will show you all the different types of that tree asset. And then if I select an asset that has multiple, so let's go for this full trees. So you can see here it has multiple. If I click here, on the left, it will show you, on the right, sorry, get my left and right wrong. On the right, you'll see all the different ones here, so you could quickly select them. But there's also this tick box that says random stamp. That means when I click, it will give me another random stamp of a random size, and then you can click around, and as you can see, they're all different, and it makes quite a nice, easy effect of something like a forest when you want all the trees to be slightly different. And that leads me into the radius and density that I skipped over earlier. You can set this to be quite large or small, and you can now see that rather than having one asset, I have a loads which are showing up here. And then I can change the density if I wanted less trees in the area. But we're just going to put it to the top to show you how it works. And then just like a brush, you can then brush over areas. And now it has made a little woodland for me, as easy as that. And then in addition to that, you also have these down here, which allow overlapping and randomized angle as well, if you wanted to do that for your maps. Now we're back in the stamp catalogue, as they call it, or all of the assets. I just want to talk about what probably the biggest weakness is of Inkarnate at the moment, although they have said that this is something they're going to be changing in the future. If you see here, these are the different kinds of walls that they have as assets. And if we just pick this concrete wall, for example, you'll see it's not like a brush. You have to actually place the walls next to each other, like so, to create the wall. A lot of other tools you'll be able to actually click and drag and then create the wall as so, but you can't do that yet with Inkarnate. Although, as I said, this is something that they'll be changing in the future, so maybe by the time you've seen this video, that is already a feature. But for the moment, you have to create walls by clicking like that, and then there's a few different variations of walls. So if I wanted to add a circular bit here, I could do by selecting it over here, and then if I wanted to put one here, I would have to do like so, and it's just very fiddly to get it correct. So it's not great at the moment, But as I said, it is something they're going to change in the future. So if you can manage this for the moment, hopefully it won't take them too long to actually add a proper wall tool. So back in the catalogue, you can also see that they have got ones which are already created here. So you could just create a whole building by using these ready-made rooms if you wanted to bypass having to fiddle around with the walls. So that's better, at least. Also in this stamp catalogue, you do have the search feature up here, so if you didn't want to have to scroll through or click through the left here, you can actually search for what you're looking for, and I've used it quite a bit and it does actually work pretty well. I'm also just very quickly going to scroll through the assets. As I said, this is the paid version that I'm using here, but I've been very impressed with the type of assets they've got. Like these thrones here look pretty cool. And if you keep scrolling down at some point, oh yeah, here they are. So there's a big Titan's hand, and there's this desert statue, and there's stuff like this that I generally haven't seen in other tools. So that's pretty cool. So there's weapons that you can put in your wall. There's this big evil entrance as well that you can put down, and then they have to walk through, which is pretty cool looking. So there's quite a few good assets like that. And then right at the bottom, you can see that there are shields and stuff like this, which also adds a bit to your map if you wanted to put that like in the bottom corner, make it look like an actual handout that you can give to them. And let's pick one of these to show you the text tool now. So let's pick this one here. So I'm going to put this in the top right. So you could have made your whole map, put this one on top, go to the text tool, and then you can put your text there. And then let's just say that this map was called the Brotherhood. You could put in here the Brotherhood, and then on the right here you have all of the options you would expect with a text tool. So you can change the font, change the size. So let's get the size about right. Change the font. You can see there's a fair few fonts in here, all of different styles of fantasy fonts, I would call them, I guess. So let's just put it like, let's use that one, why not? You can also change the text color, so let's make it red just to show you how that works. You can add a shadow as well, which is quite nice, and an outline like so. There's opacity as normal, rotation, curvature, so you can add curves to it as well. And then there's spacing, and then there's a blend mode here as well. So there's quite a few options, and then you've got some of the same ones along the top here as well. But I do really like this because it adds a bit more to your maps, and as I said before, it makes it a bit more like a handout that you would actually give to your players, which is quite cool sometimes to be able to send them something when they find a map in a building. You can be like, you find this map in the building, and it looks like an actual handout. So I think that's all I'm going to show you on the text. It's all pretty self-explanatory. You type it here and then you make the changes you need to. So I don't think there's much more to talk about in the text front. So let's go down to the grid tool, which is here. So you can show the grid here, and then they've got the isometric grid, the squares and the hexagons. So if we pick the square grid, just for example, you can change the size. So that's good so that you can use this type of canvas. But if you wanted it to show more of a range, then you can make the size smaller. Or if you wanted it to be really small, you could make the size bigger. You can also change the line width just here if you wanted it a little bit thicker. You can make it really thick if you wanted to, but I don't think most people would want to do that, but you could. It's quite thin at the beginning, so you could make it a little bit thicker if you wanted it to be. And then here you've got the grid color, so you could change it if you wanted a red grid to fit in with the style. If you had like a lava type of map, you could make the grid color red, which is quite a cool addition as well. And then they've got the opacity here as well, so you can make it more visible or less visible with the opacity. There's also shadows that you can add to the grid here. So there's quite a lot of options really just for the grid lines if you really wanted to incorporate that into the map as well. So I put this very quick map together with just some trees and a little building there, just to show you this last thing, which will really make your map stand out in terms of looks. So you will have noticed while I was scrolling through here that I've not been saying much about this one here, which says color filter. So on all of them, it's got a color filter. If we just go to one, it's got some presets here, which if I click, it changes it sort of puts a Instagram filter on top of it. If I go through some here so you can see the differences, there's quite a few really to go through. And like there's this parchment one here, which if you wanted to give them a handout or a map, that might be perfect for you. But it really, just by being able to put this filter on top, it really does add to the look of the map. And while you have one selected, so we've got this clarity one here, you can turn the intensity down as well. So if that's a little bit too colourful for you, you could put it down just a smidge until you're happy with it. And you can just untick here if you just want to take it off altogether. And then once you've made your map, all you have to do is click save here so that you can save everything that you have done. And then if you wanted to download it into a PNG to upload into your virtual tabletop you're using, or to print out, or whatever you want to do, you just press the export here, and it's as simple as that really. So there's one more thing that I wanted to show you that I had a little play around, and I've had somewhat success with it, but I just want to show you how it would look like if you wanted to make an isometric map using this tool as well. So this, what you're looking at now, is an isometric map that I made fully in Inkarnate. So you can see that I've used the walls around here. This is a little pool. There's the people, there's the party here, some gold, just some cages, and then some stalagmites or stalactites. I always forget which way around it is. And it looks okay. I probably wouldn't use isometric maps too much, but if you did want to use an isometric map, it makes a good enough isometric map, I would say. And this is without the filters on. If I wanted to turn some of the filters on, it does make it a little bit more vibrant and look a little bit better as well, actually. If you do want a full video where I show you how to make an isometric map on Inkarnate, then do let me know and I can make that video for you. There you have it. Hopefully you now know how the Inkarnate battle map creator works. If this video did help you, make sure to give it a like. It really does help this channel. And I'm really interested to see what battle maps that you've created with Inkarnate. So if you create any, make sure to go over to Twitter and post them on there and mention me. I'm at @ThatNerdShrike. And also make sure to subscribe. I upload videos here on YouTube every Monday and Thursday, all about D&D. So if you want to continue discussions and to learn new things about D&D, make sure to subscribe. But until next time, happy gaming.